Okay, someone asked about adding card slots to a file that you converted from a PNG. So this is just a quick tutorial. This is a bit of work, but this is one way potentially of doing it. So I've uploaded a file. This is just a sample file I created in Illustrator, so it's not a particular pattern. And we're going to save this as a print then cut image as opposed to just the cut images, which is what we normally do, because we need to be able to see where those card slots are to recreate them on the pattern in Design Space. So save it as a print then cut image, and then you're going to import that onto your board. And there's the image. Now we're going to copy this onto the canvas. So we have two versions of it, and one of them we're going to change to basic cut. So you just can change it to basic. And then we're going to do what I normally do to resize patterns, or at least what I normally do, which is we're going to use contour to separate out the square from the pattern piece. And then I'm going to use the size of that square to determine my calculation. So this is a 0.507, so we need to get everything up to the 1 inch mark. So we're going to divide the width of that pattern piece by the width of the square. And I always forget the width of the square when I'm doing calculations, which is why I usually write it down. So that's our new width. We're going to copy that, paste that into the width, and that gives us the actual size of the pattern that we're going to be cutting out. Now, because these were identical copies of each other, you can just use the exact same measurement to recalculate the size of the print and cut image. So same, divide it by, copy and paste that into the width, and that gives you two identical shapes. I just delete the 1 inch square at this point. So copy these and then align them so they're completely on top of each other. And then we're just going to hide that cut image for the time being, because what we really want to see is where are these card slot pieces that need to be cut. And this is where it gets to be a little bit of work. I normally would do this in Illustrator, but I'm trying to find ways to show people who don't have those kinds of tools to be able to do this in Design Space. So bear with me because I'm learning as I go as well. So I like to zoom in. Unfortunately, Design Space is kind of a pain in the butt to zoom in on, but basically you're just going to recreate these shapes as cut files so that you can attach them to your other piece to cut properly in Design Space. So you create the dot first, copy and paste that because they're the same size on both sides. And then I usually like to align those just so that they're exactly centered with each other. You're eyeballing this a little bit, but I think you can get it pretty accurate. Then you want to use a line tool, and then make sure that you turn that line obviously 90 degrees. And that's going to sit between the two dots. Now, it doesn't really matter if they overlap a little bit because your tool is going to cut those dots out completely, so they're really an empty space in there. So make sure also it tends to add lines as scores, so just make sure you've got it as a basic cut, as not a score line, because you definitely don't want to score these on your card slots. So then you might just have to resize that line a little bit so it fits between those two dots. And then again, I like to make sure everything is aligned properly, so I'll go and align these centered. And then just, you can unhide that card slot print and cut so you can see how they look. And then you're going to want to weld those all together so that they're like one piece. And then we're going to copy and paste it. So you only have to do this once. You don't have to recreate that card slot each time. You're just copying and pasting them because they're all identical. So get it as close as you can. Go and turn off the base piece again. Select them all. And distribute them and make sure that they're nice and aligned on the left side. That looks pretty good. So now we can turn that off and turn back on the print or the cut piece, and we're gonna select everything and attach these so that they all cut as one piece when you go to cut them. So there you see you've got the little dots or little circles, the lines, and the full piece of your card slot.